Hi, welcome to Overthinking Entrepreneur. I'm Megan, and I've had a successful online business for a few years now, and I think I overthought probably about 90% of my decisions along the way. Honestly, I just overthought whether I should say 90% or pretty much every decision in this intro. So if you find that relatable, you are definitely in the right place. In this podcast, I will help you get out of overthinking and into action so that your online business can finally start growing. Hi, fellow procrastinators. So, this week we're going to dive into procrastination. Now, I'm not going to cure your procrastination completely, of course, but I do think this is going to give you something really helpful that has helped me a lot as a chronic, lifelong procrastinator. Now, I did get diagnosed with ADHD this year. That is definitely a big part of my procrastination, but I have also found that there are so many different reasons why I procrastinate. And I've also found this with my clients. And I think getting to the patterns of what's going on with your specific procrastination can also really help you kind of bust through it and stop it from derailing you so much. And so I thought it might be fun to kind of go through some of the different reasons why I've noticed myself procrastinating, why I've noticed clients procrastinating, so that you can try to identify what might be going on with you and stop it, basically. So, and again, like I said, it's not going to be like, you know what, I'm cured, we're all fixed, let's go, this is amazing, and I'm never going to procrastinate again. But it has really helped me identify patterns to the way that I procrastinate. And so what I mean by that is there's different causes to procrastinating. And sometimes they are unrelated to the task. Sometimes they are related to the task that you're trying to do. But I have noticed over the years different patterns of my own. And there are times, especially when it's something that I want to be working on, and I still am struggling to actually move forward and make progress, then I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I want to be working on this. I have the time right now. I want to be working on this. Why am I not? And again, I have ADHD. I know that's part of it. I have learned a lot of strategies for my own HD over the years before I even got diagnosed. And now I do take some medication, which helps some, but certainly doesn't fix everything by any means. But I've also noticed, like I said, patterns. And this was inspired by one of my own patterns, actually two different things that happened to me over the past couple months that I'll share about as we get to those examples, that made me think, if I'm dealing with this, I'm sure other people too, excuse me, because I have always said getting to know yourself is one of the best things that you can do in your business. And I think sometimes people like look at me a little sideways or think I'm silly. I've had phases where I get really into like personality tests. I have an episode of this podcast about color personalities. I love Myers-Briggs and Enneagram, and I've been getting a little more into astrology and human design, but still not quite sure how I feel about those. But anyway, I have always been a strong proponent that the more you know yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more that will serve you in business. Because if you understand why you're doing something or why you're not doing something, that can help you fix it. But when you don't understand what's going on and why you're doing it, it's really hard to fix it. And then you just get mad at yourself. And procrastination is one of those ones that's really easy to get mad at yourself for. And I still get mad at myself for it sometimes. Don't get me wrong, but it can be one of those ones that's really easy where you're like, it's very simple, brain. All you have to do is do the thing. We're sitting here, we have the time, the thing is here, just do it. Why aren't you doing it? And then you get so mad at yourself. Or sometimes it's not even that you're staring at the screen and not doing it. Sometimes it's that you didn't even get it started. Sometimes you're like, okay, this is the day that I do that project. And then the end of the day comes and you didn't do it yet again, right? And you're just like, oh, why am I not doing this project? Why am I avoiding it so hard? And so again, I think that you need to know your own self well and understand when some of it is just like your normal procrastination and it just kind of is what it is, and it might be external things going on. But I wanted to walk you through some of what I found is more kind of task specific procrastination so that you can maybe identify why there's that one thing on your to-do list that is always getting avoided, and then make some changes and start getting it done. So I hope this is making sense. Every now and then when I'm recording a podcast, I'm like, I don't know about this one. And then I usually listen to my own episodes. It feels weird, but just to make sure like everything sounds okay and there's nothing wonky, because I could always take it down and redo it, And oftentimes when I'm listening, I'm like, this is pretty good. Hey, this girl knows what she's talking about. So I'm having that feeling right now of, I'm not sure if I'm doing the best job of explaining what I'm trying to explain to you about why I think this episode is important, but we're going to keep going. So let's talk about what can be going on to cause you to procrastinate a specific task. So the first one might just be that it's boring. If it's simply boring and you just don't want to do it, it's really easy to put off the boring stuff. It's really easy to say, oh, that sounds so boring. I'd rather do literally anything else. And then you just don't do it. And then you just don't do it and you don't do it and you don't do it. And it gets put off and put off and put off because it just sounds boring. And maybe you're already overwhelmed or struggling with motivation or you're really tired. I just heard a really fascinating conversation about feeling tired all the time and that oftentimes it's not physical tired. It can be for sure, but oftentimes it's not so much physical tired, it's mental tired because you're craving dopamine. You're depleted of dopamine. And what we do is say, oh, I'm just so tired. I'm going to do nothing. And that gives you no dopamine. And then you just stay stuck in the cycle. And so the answer, and again, depending on what's going on, this is all, there's always exceptions, but the answer is to do it tired, to keep doing it because completing the task is typically where the dopamine lies, but you have to kind of do it tired to get there. I thought it was so interesting. But anyway, little side tangent there. But if the task is boring and you just don't want to do it, I think you have two options here. You can either make it more fun, you can get creative and figure out what can I do to make this task more fun, or you can outsource it. Actually, so you have three. You can make it more fun so that you feel like doing it. So there's ways you can do this. You can, I don't know, if it's something on your computer and involves like going to work on your website, like put a silly hat on your logo. Like, like little things that just like it's something that makes it feel more fun, or put on a song that you like listening to while you do the thing, or there's lots of different ways that you can make the task more fun. You can also outsource the task. So if it's something that doesn't have to be done by you and it's boring and you just don't want to, give it to someone else. You might be able to outsource it to AI. Maybe it depends what it is. I wouldn't have it write things for you, but sometimes like a good example of this, I write content prompts every month for my membership and then I release them. And also, in case you missed it, I built the coolest AI tool that helps you implement these prompts. It takes you from the prompt to the post, but it does not write it for you. It guides you to write it yourself so that it's still your idea, your voice, but it makes it a lot easier to figure out how to apply the prompt to your business. It basically asks you, here's the prompt for the day. Do you have ideas or do you want me to help you brainstorm? The brainstorming is so good. It asks questions in ways that trigger ideas, unlock kind of ideas from your own brain that you probably wouldn't have thought of, but it doesn't just tell you what to do. It really guides you to finding your own ideas that you might not have come up with on your own. Then it helps you turn that into a outline so that you're not writing from scratch. You're not sitting there saying, okay, I have a great idea, but how do I actually write this? How do I organize this? You've got that structure already. So it's really fast and easy to write the post yourself, but you're writing it yourself. And that's a big key part of it. And then once you're done, it looks at your post and it audits it using my guide to creating more engagement. It kind of goes through the rules and tells you if there's anything that you should change to make sure that the post is set up to get engagement. It's amazing. So if content is one of the things that you find boring, this makes it easier, kind of half outsourced and more fun. So I'm just saying, there's grab the prompt to post buddy. It's only $25 in September. You can get the prompts and get the buddy free. I think I'm going to charge for it separately in the future. I haven't decided how much yet, to be honest. This isn't a tactic. I really don't know yet how much I want to charge for it. But this month, I just want people to try it. So get the prompts and the buddy for free. Well, not for $25. The buddy's free. Anyway, okay, back on track here. So outsource it. You can either outsource this to AI, like I just said. So, oh, that's how I got here. I was like, how did I end up talking about the buddy? See, you can follow my ADHD brain sometimes. I write these prompts every month, and you would think the hardest, most time-consuming part would be the actual writing. And it probably is when I really look at the amount of time that goes into it, but it feels like what actually takes the longest or just as long as the writing is organizing them into the calendar. So like I sit down and write them and then I have to put them into the calendar in an order that makes sense. And this part takes me forever and it's my least favorite and I hate it. And I have figured out how to get ChatGPT to do that part for me. So I write the prompts. I'm not having ChatGPT create the prompts for me. I still write the prompts, but it takes the tedious, boring part that I avoid, the organizing them into a calendar, and does that part of it for me. So you might be able to outsource to AI or you might outsource to a person. But outsourcing is also an option if something's boring and you just don't want to do it and you can't seem to get yourself to. Or the third option is to just brute force your way through it. Just make yourself do it. Just say, I know that I don't want to do this. I know it's going to be boring, but it has to be done and I'm just going to do it so it's over with. I think all of those are viable options, but recognizing the reason I'm not doing this is that it's boring and what am I going to do about that? The next thing that can happen is if you're feeling unsure, if there's uncertainty involved. And this is actually the first one of mine that made me want to do this. So I have noticed a strong recurring pattern for myself of when I have some uncertainty, I really struggle to make forward or to move forward, excuse me. So where this shows up for me the most is when I am creating something new. So when I have an idea for something new that I want to launch, and I have some of the ideas nailed down, but not all of it, I find it really hard for me to move forward until I've nailed down those pivotal details. So, for example, when I create a new program, I typically start with the idea. I start with the result that I want to get for you. Like, what do I want this to be about? What do I want them to learn? What do I want them to walk away doing? And then I kind of work backwards and say, what does that need to look like? What sort of structure is going to help them do that? And then I go backwards and I kind of break it down into bullet points. I start to kind of map out some of the major details, but I will often start to move forward with certain, like, for example, I'll create the sales page and sell something before it's completely done because I have enough of the big picture to create the sales page content. And then it makes more sense to promote it, to get it started promoting, and then me finish it up in the background while I'm promoting so that once I'm done with it, it's ready to go and it's already been promoted instead of finishing everything. And now I have to go into a 1 to 2 week promo and I can't just give it to you. And it just doesn't work. So anyway, I have gotten really good at doing this, but I've had a handful of times where I just can't seem to move forward. I just can't seem to finish the sales page, or I just can't seem to do the one thing that I'm trying to work on. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is how I always do this. But then when I take a step back, it's because there's some key details of how whatever the thing is that I'm working on, it's going to work that I haven't really figured out yet. And because I have that uncertainty, I just don't feel like I can move forward. Because I'm still a little bit unclear of what this is going to be, it stops me in my tracks. And I have finally had this, like, connected this pattern. And that's what even made me want to talk about this as a pattern was that the last time I did this, when I was like, oh, this is why I've been staring at my computer for 2 days and not moving forward. This is why I got nothing done while my son was napping, even though I had big plans of what was going to get done. It's because I hadn't given myself that clarity so that my brain felt like safe to move forward with the project. So start to notice if this happens to you as well. If, I think there's a line where we can spend too much time feeling like we need everything decided up front before we move forward. But I have noticed that when there's a specific thing I'm creating and I just keep getting stuck, it's often because there's some uncertainty in what the end product is going to be. And if I just sit down and make those big picture decisions, all of a sudden I'm off to the races and I can get all of those little things done again. The next one, you could be scared. This is a big one. And fear is sneaky, and we don't always like say to ourselves or understand, I'm scared and that's what's going on here. But oftentimes fear can be what's going on. So if let's say that you have been saying for a year now that you want to start an email list, but you're scared that no one will join or no one will open your emails. So you're procrastinating even figuring out the email stuff. And you're telling yourself it's because you don't have time, because it's too big of a project, it's too much to figure out, you're just not sure. But what's really going on is that you're scared that no one's going to join your list. And so to keep yourself safe from that, remember, brains are literally designed to keep us safe. It goes back to the days of cavemen, but our brains haven't really fully evolved and don't understand that we're not like we're not in danger in the same way that we used to be from like saber-toothed tigers and stuff like so. Oftentimes it's adapted, and these little things, like when something feels scary, when something feels like it wouldn't be safe for you to do, it can be very easy to just not do it. We're just like, yeah, I'm just going to leave that. Oh, my dog is barking his face off in the background. I don't think you can hear. I'm going to just keep going. Who knows what he's barking at? Probably absolutely nothing. Okay. When you're scared, he's scared of something right now. Probably not. He's usually very angry. But when you're finding that there's that underlying fear, that tends to be one of the biggest reasons behind procrastinating that I have noticed across the board. And this is the other one that I noticed in myself recently. I mean, I've noticed all of these in myself. That's why I'm able to talk about them. But I had another example of this one recently. So I've been talking about this for a while. You may have heard me, you may not, but my website, well, right now I kind of have like two half websites. I have my Shopify website, which I went all in on like a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I moved everything over to Shopify. I thought it was going to be great. It hasn't really been great. It's been great in that it's so easy for me to add new listings rather than building a full-on sales page, but it hasn't really done a lot of the things that I wanted it to do, and there's a lot of limitations that have made me frustrated. And so I made the decision a while ago that I was going to move away from my Shopify site and to a more traditional website. And this is actually a great example because I had two different things that really kind of came into play here. One of them, oh my gosh, he will not stop barking. I'm trying so hard to ignore him and stay in the zone, but it's so hard, you guys. He won't stop. Um, he's like, it's coming through the air vents in my closet. That's why I can hear it so loud. I record in my closet. So anyway, there's kind of two different things that both of these last two examples kind of came into play with this because first, I was really overthinking and unsure of where I wanted my new home to be. What platform do I want to use for my website? And everyone says, theirs is the best, and this is the best, and that's the best. And I was looking at all these different things and trying to decide where I wanted to go. So there was some uncertainty. So that was part of what was holding me back was the uncertainty of I don't really know which one's going to be the best and I'm not sure and all of that. But what was really going on when I realized is that I have made the decision that when I move to my new website, that's going to be when I really, like I've been talking about since I brought this podcast back. I'm in a place where I feel like my offer suite needs a bit of a revamp. I want to really look at what I want to keep offering. There are a lot of things that I put in my shop when I had the different mindset of how can I best use a shop that I may or may not keep selling when I move over to the new website. So I've already kind of decided when I move, that's when I really need to sit down, decide what stays and what goes, decide what I'm going to change, decide what any new offers might be, any of that kind of stuff is going to happen when I move over. Now that is a very scary project. And because of that, I have been avoiding any progress whatsoever into the new website. And I kept telling myself it was because I didn't have time, because there was other more pressing things that needed attended to first. And like all of that was true in a sense, but at the same time, it finally hit me like a ton of bricks. The real reason I have not made progress moving my website over is because I am terrified and uncertain of what my new offer suite should look like and what should I even be putting on my website and what should I keep and what should go and what do I want that to look like. And that is why I have been stuck. It's not, I mean, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be fun. I do not like building websites. I don't like graphic design. Like, this is not the kind of stuff in my business that I like doing. So there is like the boring aspect. There is the hard aspect, which is the last one on my list we're going to talk about next. Like, all of these factors, like, this is a great example that I came up with to use because it is going to be boring at times. It is going to be really hard at times. It is going to be a ton of work and it feels overwhelming. I am unsure if I'm making the right choice about which platform to go with. I am unsure if I'm making the right choices about which offers to keep and which ones to go. And I'm scared that I'm going to mess it up. And because of all of that, I've done absolutely nothing. For like, how long now have I been saying I'm going to move my website over? And so when I finally had that realization of like, oh, I'm just scared. That's what's going on. That's when I felt like I could finally start to move through. So, when fear is what's going on, there's a few different ways that you can approach this. And I think it depends on your personality. It depends on what the fear is, of course. But typically, you either can like address that fear. There's techniques, there's things that you can do to like reframe the fear. There's strategies that you can use to kind of move through the fear. I think for me, a lot of times, even just recognizing that that's what it was is enough because that's where fear's sneaky is that a lot of times when you don't realize it's fear and you don't kind of look it in the face, it can keep you stuck. But once it almost feels to me like the scariest part to me in a scary movie usually is before you see the monster, before you see the bad guy, like when the person is running and hiding in the woods or there's a sound in their house and they're terrified what they're going to see, like that unknown is the much scarier part to me. Once you've actually seen the monster, like an example of this, let's use Stranger Things. A lot of people have seen the show Stranger Things. In season 1, whenever like there's the threat of the Demogorgon coming, it's really scary. Like the first half of the season is so scary. And don't get me wrong, other parts of it can be scary, but like when Will gets abducted and like the first time, like when the monster's coming in the house, it's really scary. In the scene where they decide to take on the monster and like they stay in the house and they see the monster and they're trying to hit it with a baseball bat and stuff, of course it's scary, but to me it's like a 2 out of 10 compared to like 8 out of 10 for those other scenes. Like when you're actually seeing the monster, when it's there, it's not nearly as scary. So for me, once I recognized, like once I had that thought of, oh, am I serious right now? It's just fear. That's why I haven't been doing this. I almost like laughed at myself in a sense. Like not that I laughed at myself. It's valid to have these fears, and they're still there. I still have some uncertainties. Although I do feel like I've gotten so much clarity these last few months. Summer camp really lit my fire again, and then just the things I'm working on, the plans that I have, like I finally feel like I know what I want to do, and I have that clarity and that excitement back, and I'm really really excited for the next couple months of my business and the ideas that I have. But it was like once I realized, like, oh, I've just been scared. That's why I'm not doing it. Oh, and so it was almost like that was like the switch flipped, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do this now. Like if I just know that it's sometimes. I think we just need to do it scared. Just like I was saying, do it tired. Sometimes we have to just do it scared. So if you don't have that same kind of switch flip as me, where you're like, wow, this was just fear. Now I feel kind of, okay, well, now I'm ready to move past it. Then what you can do is say, I have this fear, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have this fear, but I'm not going to let fear dictate my life. I'm not going to let fear hold me back. However you want to look at that. But that's one option that you can do. I think another thing that can be really powerful if it's fear holding you back is to find either a coach or a community or both. I highly recommend both, but I think either one can be helpful. Finding that person who's been there, who can validate your fears, but also help you look at them differently and cheer you on and help you push through, because fear is much more powerful when you're isolated, when you're alone, when you're not telling anyone else about it. It has a lot more power over you. When you start telling other people about the fear and they start sharing their fears with you and how they've worked through it, it makes a world of difference. So finding some sort of coach or mentor, or finding some sort of community, and that can be a free space, that can be linking up with a few friends that you know that are in a similar stage of business to you and deciding to kind of like work together, or that can also be something like joining a membership. I would highly recommend coming into my membership, The Squad, if you find you're really struggling with fear, because I think building those relationships of people who are on a similar journey, working through their fears, can be there to cheer you on, and also that you can tell them your intentions. I do this all the time. When I tell other people what I want to do, now I'm not accountable only to myself. Now they know, and they're going to be checking up on it. And this is something my members are really great at in the squad, is saying, hey, how did that party go that you were planning? Or hey, how did that challenge go that you were asking about? Not in a like accusatory or hey, you're doing that thing, right? Like there's none of that vibe whatsoever in my membership. But they're so great at supporting each other and just cheering each other on through things. And if you're trying to do it alone and being held back by fear, please find other people. Find your community. It will make a huge difference. Okay, the next thing that can happen, you can be really overwhelmed. And I feel like so many people that I've talked to lately just are overwhelmed in general already, just in life. And then when you have business on top of it, and if you have a big business task like moving my whole website, right? This was such a great example. I probably should have given you this one from the beginning and just used it for all of them. I didn't even realize what a good example it was until I'm actually here talking and recording now. But um, it's a very overwhelming task, right? I have to pick the platform that I want to use, and then I have to decide what's going to move, and then I have to learn the new platform and how to actually move it, and then I have to probably mess up a million times and have something break and then figure out how to fix that because it's all new and I don't know what I'm doing, and it's going to be a lot. It's a very overwhelming task. So a big thing that you can do when you look at a big task on your to-do list, if it feels like a lot and you don't even know where to get started, you're probably not going to do anything. So if you're finding yourself frustrated that you're avoiding a certain task and not making progress on it, but it's like a very big, overwhelming task, that can be a big part of it. So break it down into something smaller. And I just had this talk with one of my squad members who's doing the accountability coaching, which that would be like my number one recommendation if you're really stuck and dealing with a lot of procrastination and fear and all of this, would be to come into the squad at the VIP tier where you get the one-on-one accountability coaching with me on top of it. It's like the best of both worlds. But I was chatting with one of my clients who's doing that, and she is in the middle of relaunching and rebuilding her own website. And she was coming to me and saying, I didn't get much done on the website this week. Like I'm trying, but I'm feeling a little bit frustrated. And finally, I asked her about, what do you have on your to-do list? Does it just say website? That's a lot. And that's very overwhelming. And the other thing is that you might spend hours working, but you can't technically check it off. I have had to really learn how to kind of engineer my to-do list. I have done this all the time. I just watched a show. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of squirrel moments in this episode. But if any of you have seen the show Interior Design Masters, I just discovered that it exists and I am binging it on Amazon Prime and I'm so sad. I'm on the last season that's available right now and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself because I've really been it's so cool to watch what they can create. I think interior design is so fascinating and I just love it. But there was a girl who was on the last season that I watched, and I have hardly ever related to someone I've seen on a television show so much in my whole life. Before she did eventually go on to talk about being diagnosed with ADHD, but I was just like, she has ADHD. Like I could just tell instantly because it was like watching myself on the show, like even down to our sense of humor. It was weird. If any of you have seen that show, let's talk about it. But anyway, there was an episode where she had a ton of projects in her room that she had been working on, and she'd been like dipping her toes and worked on like 10 of them, but none of them got completed. And at the end of the night, it was like they had 2 days to do it, and she was looking at what got done and what was still on the list and what needed done tomorrow. And she had a little bit of a meltdown from just overwhelm because she was like, I've been working so hard all day and not a single thing is checked off my list. What have I been doing? And I related to it so hard because I've done this too, where you either put tasks on your lists that are so big that it's not realistic for you to like get them done and cross them off, or you have 10 things on your list and you do a little bit of each of them, but none of them actually got done. A lot of them moved forward. There's progress been made, but none of them are ready to check off. And that messes with you mentally so much, especially if you've been working for hours and nothing can get checked off your list. And so I related watching her do that so much, but I think it ties back into this same thing. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you're probably not going to start. If you're looking at the task and saying, even if I worked on this all night, it wouldn't get done, that doesn't really make you want to start, right? That's not very motivating. That if anything, it makes you want to go just watch TV instead, which is probably what you did. So what I think is really important here is to break down the tasks. Instead of writing, create website, start email list, figure out my life, right? All these huge tasks on your to-do list, break them down. Something like choose a photo for the homepage. Write the about me section, right? Like we're little miniature tasks. And the way I do this I write my to-do list in my Apple Notes app because then it syncs between my phone and my computer. And I make it a checklist. You can actually do that just easily within the Notes app. And what I do is I will put the big items. So if the item is website, I can put the big item that says website, but then what I do is I tab over and I make a sub list of all the different tasks that need done. I do this. Here's a good example. When I create my monthly content prompts, I do this every single time. Or same with this podcast. I will write down podcast episode needs done for the week. But then I don't just say podcast, I break that down into subtasks, which are decide what the episode's going to be about and write out any notes that I need ahead of time. And then the next one is record the episode. And then the next one is edit and upload the episode. And then the last one is show notes and publish. And so it's like each of those tasks, because if all I wrote down was podcast, it's possible that I did 4 out of 5 or however many that was. I didn't count, but I still can't check the box. And then I feel very overwhelmed and I feel like, what's even the point? And it's way too much and I can't get this done. And so sometimes it's as simple as changing the way you're approaching the task so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And then when you can check off like 10 boxes of things you got done, you feel good and it makes you want to keep going on the project instead of this is too overwhelming, it's too much, it's never going to get done, and I just don't even want to touch it. Okay, and the last one, and this is by no means comprehensive, of course. There's so many other reasons why you could be procrastinating, but these are the big ones that I see often that I really wanted to touch on. So it's hard. The task is going to be really hard. And it just sounds hard and you just don't want to. You just don't want to do something that hard. You're tired. It's been a hard week. You've had a long day. That sounds really hard. You'd rather just sit on the couch and chill out. I get it. Trust me. I don't understand what I used to be doing pre-toddler. Like, how did I ever think I was busy or tired before? I don't know. I shouldn't say ever. That's extreme. Of course, I know why I was sometimes, but there were plenty of times where I thought I was overwhelmed or tired or whatever that I'm like, I really wish I could go back to that version of me right now and see how easy I had it. But anyway, hard. If the task is hard, there's a few different ways that you can approach this. So the first one is you can just suck it up and do it. I know that's probably not very fun. It's not necessarily what you want to hear. Sometimes that's what I need to hear and what I need to tell myself. Sometimes I'm looking at a task and it's going to be hard and I don't want to, but there's no way around it, right? we're going on a bear hunt. We can't go around it. We can't go over it. We got to just go through it. So sometimes we have to just suck it up and just say, this is the day I'm doing it, and I'm doing it no matter what, and just like have that discipline and just make yourself do it. Sometimes this is where support can really come into play. So it can be support to help make the task not so hard. What can you do? Does it have to be as hard as you're making it? That's another really good question to ask yourself. Are you making it harder than it really needs to be? Is there something that you could do to approach it differently? Is there something that you could do to increase your chances of succeeding? Is there something that you could learn or invest in or get help with that would make this not so hard? Or you can also pull in good old external accountability, like I was just talking about. When I have a task that feels hard and scary, sometimes I have to like tell other people about it first, so then I have to follow through with it. So I wish I had better advice for when a task is hard, but I think this one's really dependent on your personality and probably like your upbringing and different things, whether you're more of a like suck it up buttercup kind of person or it's okay, I know it's really hard, but we're gonna get through this. Like I think different people respond to different things when it comes to something feeling really hard. But the biggest thing I want you to know is that you can do hard things. You absolutely are capable of doing hard things. And there's nothing wrong with you, and it's completely normal to avoid the things that feel hard. But sometimes we have to just do them, and the pride you'll feel on the other side and the results that can be waiting on the other side are so worth it. So, okay, I feel like I got this episode together at the end. Hope that probably the beginning sounds better than I think that it did too. It usually does when I go back and listen, but hopefully you made it to the end if you were a little unsure in the beginning. But I hope you see what I mean by this. There are lots of different reasons why you could be procrastinating. And you may have listened and said, oh, that's me. Like you may have really related to the fear or the uncertainty. Like you might find that some of these are you. You might find that you do all of them. I've done all of them at various times. But I also hope that you understand that kind of how to fix it depends on what's going on. If what's going on is that you're terrified, but you think what's going on is that it's boring, or you're just beating yourself up for being lazy, or whatever it may be, and you're trying to like brute force yourself through a boring task, but really what's going on is that you're terrified and you haven't addressed that yet, you're just going to keep feeling stuck. So I think the more that you can get to the bottom, and I sometimes just try and ask myself, what's going on here? Like, hey, self. And I don't really have like a full on conversation with myself, but you absolutely can if that's your style. But really just like what is going on here? Like I have time. I'm sitting at my computer right now. I have an hour, however long I have. This task needs done. I want to do it. Maybe it's not my favorite task, but like I want to do it. I want to do it now. I have the time. Why am I not doing it? What's going on? And like really asking yourself. And that might be a great time to pull out this episode and listen to it again and try and pinpoint, why are you procrastinating this particular task? Because once you figure out why, then you can figure out what to do about it and how to get through it. So I really hope that this will help you. I just want you to know that procrastinating is normal. And even if you are a lifelong procrastinator like me, you absolutely can still have a successful business, but it's going to take some effort on your part. What you can't do is say, I'm a procrastinator and I always have been and I always will be. And that's just how I do everything and I'm not going to do anything about it. I think you have to just learn to work with your procrastination, learn to build deadlines knowing that you might procrastinate, learn how, like finding those ways, learning how to get yourself out of procrastination, learning how to not just say, this is who I am and there's nothing that can be done about it, saying, this is who I am. They're probably like, there's not a lot that I can do to change my nature, but how can I work with myself so that it doesn't hold me back? That's really what I want you to shift into. I am never going to be someone who doesn't procrastinate. Like my brain is literally wired that way. Like it just is. And so rather than getting mad at myself about something that I can't change, it's been more about how can I learn to work with myself? And when I find that my procrastination is becoming a problem, I get to the root cause and figure out how to address it so that I can start moving forward. And that's what I want for you as well. So if you want more support with this, I would love to help you. I think it's really beneficial, like I was saying, and sometimes it's hard to spot your own patterns. Sometimes having an outside set of eyes can be really great. There's been times where I've been able to say to my clients, especially clients that do my accountability coaching, where we're chatting a few times a week, it makes it really easier for me to notice the patterns and say, hey, okay, every time we put a date to something, you XYZ, or hey, every time this, you know, and then we can really identify the pattern so that they can break it. So I would love to support you either in my membership or with my accountability coaching, or for you to check out my fancy new prompt buddy GPT. It's so cool. It will help you so much if content is one of the things that you procrastinate, or if you just spend way too much time, you're sitting there staring at the prompt, trying to figure out what to post. That's not where we want you to be. So, okay, I would love for you to share, once you've heard this, are you a procrastinator, and which one of these tends to be your kind of your kryptonite, I guess, the most? Which ones tend to happen? For me, I think the uncertainty, overwhelm, and fear are the ones that happen the most often. Probably uncertainty and overwhelm right now. Early on, I think scared was a huge one for me, but I've worked through a lot of that. I still get scared now. Don't get me wrong, but the fear doesn't hold me back quite as much, except like that example I gave you, right? With the big project of kind of overhauling a lot of aspects of my business, I did notice fear was coming back up to play. But for me, I think the uncertainty and feeling overwhelmed tend to be the biggest ones. So now that I break down the task on my to-do list, and now that I can recognize, oh, this is that thing where I'm unsure and that's why I'm not moving forward, and I can stop and make those decisions, it's really helped me tremendously. So I can't wait to hear how this will hopefully help you too. And I'll talk to you next week. I hope this episode inspires you to go take action on something you have been overthinking. As much as I wish you could, you cannot think your way to success, so promise me you're going to go take some action today. Head over to overthinkingentrepreneur.com to find all the cool stuff I've made for you over the years, like my free guide to getting more social media engagement and my Facebook group, Dynamite Entrepreneurs, which has a free course on social media basics.